Bishop Samuel Blakes, and you're listening to Real Talk with Mary J.
Happy Merry Monday, everybody. You've tuned into Real Talk with Mary J. Real Talk with Mary J is a social outlet for a positive outcome, and we are so elated to share with all of our listening audience all around the world today. We have been talking about Mental Health Awareness Month for the entire month. Listen, on last month, we dealt with Black Women History, and the month before that, International Women's Month. But we're right in the middle now of Mental Health Awareness Month. We've been having some audience and that have been just bringing in comments and sharing with us how Real Talk with Mary J has been helping them. They've been dealing with so many challenges. And listen, I have an author for you on today. She's a young author, and she is sharing with us from her own perspective. She is the author of What a Black Parent Don't Know. Listen, I want you all to connect with me. Let me tell you a little bit about who this author is, and you're going to be so inspired. Right now, while I'm talking, I want you to go and share, go like, go share, and invite someone. Tag someone to join in on this conversation on today, because it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be so empowering, and it's going to help you and your children. Parents, listen, What a Black Parent Don't Know. This is by Envy King. As a young girl, Envy thought New Orleans was a city that never slept, the city that brought people and families together with parades, food, and its aura. Over time, Envy began to notice her community in New Orleans could not be farther apart. She began to notice her peers were having communication issues with their parents, very similar to herself. She is dedicated to building better relationships between Black parents and Black youth. Envy is a native of New Orleans, Louisiana. She is the second eldest born into a family of 8. Wow. Envy began writing at the young age, listen to this, 15 years old, and published her first book at 17 years old. She actively performed at Black Union's program, from preaching a poem to acting a role, to inform her peers of Black adversities and accomplishments. She loved animals and spending time with family. She plans to become a veterinarian technician. I want you all to welcome on the show today my special guest, young author Envy King.
Hi, Ms.
Welcome,
Mary.
Envy. Thank you so much for coming on to share with us your amazing book. Oh my goodness, we can't not wait to get into this. And especially, listen, Mother's Day was just on yesterday. So mothers, those of you that are listening, you need to get this book. Look, even our children, youth, if you're listening to this, because this is going to be on Instagram as well, we're going to post it there. You need to get this book for your parents. What a Black Parent Don't Know by Envy King. I had the awesome opportunity to publish Envy's book for her through my company, I'm Press Publishing. And Envy and I have never met in person, but we've communicated by social media and as well as Zoom to get her book published and up for her. But before we get into this wonderful book, Envy, this, I'm telling you, this has touched my heart, and it has changed my perspective even on as it relates to the way that I communicate and deal with my young people, where I have grown men and women now. Touch some things that I've experienced as well in life, and some things that I repeated that I was taught in life. So before we go further, Envy, will you let our listening audience know all of who you are, what you do, and where you're from?
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Envy King. I'm currently 19 years old. I work at a vet hospital right now as a kennel technician, but I'm currently enrolled in college to become a vet tech. So,
Awesome.
yeah, that's who I
Awesome.
am.
Envy, listen, you know, I'm on edge about this book, and I've been trying to get you on this show to talk about it. And I'm so glad that you decided to come on live and to share with us to discuss this book. What a Black Parent Don't Know, uh, by Envy King. And I had the privilege, guys, I had the privilege to forward this book. But we're going to talk about this book, Envy, on today. But I want to
Mhm.
read the forward to all of our listening audience so you can see why I was so, it was just personable for me to write this book. But let me tell you what I've written as her forward. What a Black Parent Don't Know. What a Black Parent Don't Know is a thought provoking, deep breathing, self reflecting examination that every parent must read. Envy King courageously uncovers the struggles that many families face day to day, especially the Black family. As I read each chapter, I begin to reflect on my upbringing that was very similar with some of the old traditions and generational curses exposed by this book. The chapter entitled Envy, oh my gosh, stays in this house. Ouch. Yes. The chapter entitled What Stays in This House is one that left a great impression on me, and I believe that this topic is one of which every household can definitely relate. If we would only take the time to ponder about what we are keeping in the house, we would ultimately identify or uncover both its cause and its many long-term effects impacting generation after generation. Maybe all the clutter and chaos in the house is what is causing the problems and should be good reason to let it all go. Chapter by chapter, Envy exposes the cluttering thoughts of many youth who are looking for a clean, free space to release stress and overcome challenges and fears that could otherwise leave them depressed and despondent. You don't have to raise your children how you were raised, says Envy. This echoed throughout my spirit as I turned each page. What a Black parent don't know would challenge your paradigms with convictions that would provoke positive and necessary change. I am so proud of this beautiful, empowering young author, and I am honored to write the foreword for such a propelling book that breaks generational curses and bridges gaps between parents and youth. I don't believe the world has heard the last of Envy King. I know this book is the first of many to come. Oh, Envy, I have chills thinking about this and all of the stuff that you have written in this book. Will you tell the people exactly how you got started and, what made you write such a book?
Well, my relationship with my mom and family impacted on what I did and how the book have came to be. I remember when I was younger, when my mom would hurt my feelings, I would write letters to her, like like literal letters. And some of the letters made it to her, and some of them didn't. But when I would give her the letter, she often kind of brushed it past or claimed she didn't do those things. So as I got older, I got into writing. I would write probably werewolf books or kid stories. And then I started talking to my peers and my friends, and we would often end our conversations with, I wish my mom didn't say that to me, or I wish my dad didn't say that to me. I wish they knew that what they say hurted. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I could write a book about mental health or what the things that they say or do to us. And I was really excited writing a book. And I remember walking around school telling everybody, yeah, I'm gonna write me a book. Like I was going everywhere writing around school. And I took advanced classes, so me and your daughter isn't in the same grade, but I was with my teacher. Like I had my teachers printing out everything that I wrote. Like my theater teacher, I'm so grateful for this. If you ever see this, I'm so thankful for all of those visits to the school printer that I made you take. And I remember printing out my own book, and I was in your daughter's class and I was like, yeah, I finished the book. All I have to do is find somebody to publish it. And your daughter came out of nowhere and she was like, well, my mom's a publisher. And I just felt like the luckiest person in the world.
Awesome. She came home, Envy. I think she had an opportunity to kind of get a glimpse of your book and, the writings. And she said, Mom, there's this girl at my school named Envy, and she's writing a book, and she's been looking for a publisher, and all of the teachers and the counselors have read the book and say, oh my God, this is a really good book, Envy, you need to get it published. And so she said, I walked up and heard the conversation, and I was like, my mom is a publisher. Mom, will you help her publish her book? I said, absolutely. Give her my contact information, and I'll tell her to reach out to me, and here we are. And Envy, I am so proud of you because you took a chance on you. That's one of the things that I teach people first about winning in life. You have to make the investment, and you made the investment in you, and you weren't sure how you were going to pay for the publishing or all of that, but you were like, ma'am, I'm going to take a summer job and I'm going to work on getting my book published. And I really want to be an author. I really want to get this done. And Envy, I believe you start like you started like a bingo party or something and had people to come to the party and pay at the door to help you publish your book, like a GoFundMe?
Oh yeah, I wanted a bingo section with people where the money would go towards publishing my book. So that was fun and
That that
different.
Wow, yeah, you came up with a creative way of getting your book published because you wanted your voice to be heard. And so I am so proud of you. Again, like I said, we've never met face to face in person, especially because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But you wanted this book out and you wanted it published do you remember?
Wait, you said for how long?
When did you want to have your book published? You remember
I
when you
own
wanted it to hit? You
did
wanted
I
this
text
book
you when
to
I was
hit?
like 16, 17 years old?
Yes.
And then we took a year break because of the pandemic. So
We
I honestly didn't think it was gonna happen, but I'm so happy that we did make it happen.
Yes, you text me about your book, and I told you let's make it happen. And I don't know if you got a little reserved or you got a little nervous about it, but then you reached out to me again during the pandemic and we could not meet up. And so you was like, Miss Mary, I really want to get my book published. I said, let's make it happen. I said, when do you want it published? And you said, I want it published this year. And I think it was like, I think we were in November or something when we started, or October. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, Envy, let's make it happen. And I said, guess what? We're gonna get it out there before Christmas. And so you receive a nice Christmas gift on Christmas
Yeah.
Eve. I surprised you. Your book was published because you said I want it published by the end of this year, by January or the end of this year. So let's talk about this. What a Black parent don't know, because there's some chapters in this book that was just hitting me left and right. I said, oh, ouch. Okay, Mary J, that's something that you have to start over. You have to do over and don't repeat that. But you first talk about who am I? Will you expound a little bit on that?
Okay, so when I was first writing the book, I wanted it to be kind of like a memoir a little, because these are my personal feelings. These are things that has happened to me. I wanted people to realize, oh, she's my age and this happened to her. It happened. I wanted to be somebody people could relate to. So the first chapter, I struggled like a lot of other authors struggle is just writing. That's probably the hardest part of
Yes.
publishing or writing a book, just the first word. So I asked myself, who am I, Envy? Who do you want people to know? Who do you want people to see when they read this book? Or who do you want people to feel or relate to when you wrote this book? So yeah.
Yes, who am I? So you talked about who you are, and then you came back with the second chapter, Am I She? Why did you write that? Am I
because I love poems, so I try to make every chapter have a poem on it. Like I love spoken word, everything. So who am I? I wanted to connect with myself first, and then I wanted to bring in one of the problems that I had with my parent. Like a lot of black parents, they're always comparing their children. So when I asked who is she, I was talking about my little sister. My mom often compared me to her a lot, and it would literally hurt my feelings. Like probably one of the most things that hurted my feelings. I remember my mom and my sister fussing one day, and I remember being in my room just on my phone, and they were fussing, and my mom screamed to my sister, you becoming just like her. And my little sister screamed back to her, oh, I will never become like her. And I remember like crying. I remember feeling like so hurt. Like I was just this evil person in the house. And looking back at myself, I'm a good student. I had A's and B's throughout high school. I was class president. So at school, I'm just this perfect person. I'm this perfect student. But then at home, I'm just this like monster or something.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. I get it. I get it. And that happens across the board, you know. It's like you can be a hero in your workplace and people recognize your work ethic. And in school, you can be the smartest, the brightest, the funniest, the most talented. And then when you're home, it's like you're not recognized, you're not appreciated. And a lot of times you get criticized and ridiculed and condemned. And that reminds me of the story of Jesus, because that's the exact thing that happened to him. He was all this to everybody else, this miracle worker, this teacher, this mentor, this leader, this powerful man that was performing miracles, but in his own community, in his own home, he was just a carpenter's boy. He was just Joseph's son. He didn't have any rights. Who he think he is, talking about, he's going to be he's opening blinded eyes and raising people up from the grave. Like, who do he think he is? Why do he think he's king? And he was crucified. He was crucified, envy, for that very reason. So I get it. So you felt like your mom compared you to your other siblings and parents. That's something that we should not do. And I've done that. I've said things like that. I've said things like, oh, when your sister did this, she did it this way. And when I'll tell my son, like, I never had to deal with this, with that one. And it's just certain things that we would say, that we're not paying attention, that our words can be very hurtful. When we compare our children, I've had it done to me, coming up too. So I get it. And a lot of times we repeat those same cycles. We repeat what was taught to us. And then you talk about your weapon. Your weapon. I understand that. Was it your grandfather that was a pastor?
My grandma was a pastor.
Your
And
grandmother?
yeah.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
anytime like me and my mom would fuss or anything, I often ran to my grandma with advice. And she would always give me Bible verses. And as I grew up, I started to hate those Bible verses because I felt, I don't know how to describe it. I felt like someone was throwing rocks at me and somebody was telling me, oh, well, you can't throw a rock back because this, that, and the third. And I remember reading a Bible for myself. And a famous quote a lot of parents like to use is honor thy mother and thy father, in which a child should do that. But it's very hard to do that when you're being degraded every day, because the Bible does say your mouth is your worst weapon. So it's
Yes.
like, how can we follow honor thy mother and thy father when all you do is talk about your kids and talk down on your kids? It's like, how can we follow one Bible verse and then ignore the other Bible verse?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just had a conversation with someone just the other day about the same thing. I was a young girl and I felt like the black sheep of the family.
Yeah.
I felt like the black sheep, and I felt like some people that were elders that were disrespectful. And I felt like, well, why should I respect them when they don't have respect for themselves and they don't respect me, you know? Because I remember being a sassy little girl, and I was sassy because I felt like I'm just not going to let anybody talk to me anyway, do anything to me, and I not say anything about it. And I remember a particular relative saying something that was very belittling to me. It really hurted my feelings. It broke my heart. It kind of left a scar there for a very long time, that I did not look at them in the same light anymore, you know. I felt
Yeah.
like, wow, who would say something like that to a kid, you know? It was just very distasteful, very belittling and disgraceful. And it affected me in my approach to how I perceive that person going forward. Even some of the things that they would say to me, I felt was judgmental and critical. So I kind of gave a deaf ear to it, you know. So I get it, you know. Yeah, and it's just like the Bible says that women are to submit themselves to their own husband, and to honor and obey them. And it's like, okay, but your husband has to be submitted to God for you to honor and follow and obey what it is that he's saying, because you just don't want to submit to anything and everything that he's telling you to do. So I understand what you're saying, and the it clicks for me. That's why your book just really touched pages of my heart, and I was just so blessed. You think you were blessed, like, to just connect with me. I was blessed to also connect and help you get this book out and get it published. So you say, here's the thing: agree to disagree.
Oh yeah. In the Black community, we have this big thing about disrespect. We don't like disrespect at all, and this goes back to our roots of slavery. Our The enslaved Africans, because I don't want to call them slaves, they were people before they were enslaved. They would
Right.
get beat for being disrespectful, and I feel like we took that word and passed it through the generations. And sometimes disrespect is just communicating different point of views. I feel like people often realize their children are humans that are growing. They develop their own mindset and their own beliefs, and a lot of the times they don't even try to be disrespectful. And a lot of parents don't like their children challenging their thoughts, and they take that as a form of disrespect. And I feel like as a community, we need to leave that word in the past and start expanding our mindsets a little.
That's so good, Envy. I'm one of those parents, you know, that take disrespect literally also. And I get what you're saying. I really do. And I said that's why this book touched my heart as well, because a lot of times we don't know what we don't know. You know, we
Yeah.
don't know what we don't know. We know what we've been taught. We know what's been passed down to us. And so because you know, I had some of those issues, and didn't understand it, that I was there once upon a time as a youth. You know, I
Hmm.
was there trying to get my point across, trying to show to speak my point of view, and just opening my mouth to explain, not to debate, not to disrespect. It was like our voices were silent. But you know, growing up, I did the same thing to my children. As soon as they try to explain something to me that I don't agree with or don't look, why you talking back? You know, close your mouth. You know, I'm talking. You know, and it shuts them down. And no matter how old they are or what age they become, we still feel that it is a form. But I think it's not what you say, but it's how you say it, and giving the other person the opportunity to just speak and to be heard. So that was really, really good. Really good. Physically and mentally unavailable. What is that about, Envy?
You said physically and mentally
And mentally
unavailable.
unavailable.
Wait, I'm sorry.
I'll
I'm
tell
trying
you
to.
that. Let me get to it, because I know that, like, every chapter in my book, I don't always remember exactly what I've written.
Yeah.
but I do. I remember the story, but I don't always know exactly like what was I relating that to back then
Yeah.
because it's been years since I've written. But I'll tell you what it says. And you're very poetic. You're very poetic throughout the book. I love it. Why must I love the bird that never seemed to keep his word?
Oh.
Physically and mentally unavailable. My dad was the oldest son. He struggled with depression and still does, like a lot of Black men in our community. And guess what? Next month for me, I'm having mental health awareness, but it's going to be Black men, not Black men, I'm sorry, strong men. Strong men need strength too. Is the theme for next month's show. Strong men need strength too, and I'm having a lot of men come on the show. But let me continue to read this. Like a lot of Black men in our community that struggles, but because he was emotionally unavailable for himself, he was physically unavailable for his kids. Don't get me wrong, when we were hungry, he got us food or snacks, even occasionally got us gifts, but it wasn't enough. I always wanted more than the 2-minute visits he gave me. Throughout my childhood, neither my mom nor any of the other women he bared kids with was ashamed of telling how deadbeat of a dad he was. I don't even know why y'all called him. I told you he wouldn't come, they said. I often averted my eyes and my mind to something else when this conversation began. My siblings began to believe it too. They began to accept that he was. They began to know not to call or text him or even ask him for anything. They began to sound like our mothers. Mhm. I didn't hate him for it. I didn't even tell them to stop. A child should never have to beg for his or her parents' attention and love. I'll stop right there.
Yeah,
Yes. You
that's
know,
crazy. Oh, you want me to keep going?
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, he wasn't there mentally for himself, so he wasn't physically there for us. My dad, he did have a drug problem, and going back to the words black sheep, I feel like the black sheep of the family. So out of his 8 kids, I always felt like I could relate to him. I'm poetic because of him. Like my dad loves to write, whether that be music or poems. That's something we had in common, and or video games. In those 2-minute visits, my dad wasn't around at all, but I, as a child, children adapt to their environment. So I wanted my dad, and I knew my dad liked to write, and I knew my dad liked to play video games. So for me as a child to see my dad, I taught myself how to play video games. I
Oh,
taught
that's
myself how to
awesome.
write because I knew that's how I would attract him. Like I could hit him up, hey dad, you got this video game. Do you have it? I want to play it. And in reality, I didn't want to play the video game, but I knew that he would come to the house and drop it off. And I knew that at first, I do believe it or not, I didn't like writing at first when I was like 7, 6 years old. But I saw my dad would rap and he was always writing. So I got into rapping and writing. But it wasn't because I liked it, because I wanted to see him. And as I grew older, I realized, okay, this is this is something I like. Going back to the honor thy mother and thy parents. As I sit here 19, some of my views from the book has changed. I just I'm trying to say it without like getting emotional. But I
Okay.
just remember buying my dad graduation tickets from both my middle school graduation and high school graduation, and he didn't come, and that hurt me so much. And I have my mom in one ear saying, "Oh, he's a drug addict. You can't rely on him." And then I have my grandma, who's a pastor, in my other ear. Well, it's just the devil. It's just this. You can't hate him for it. But then as I grew up as a person, I forgave him for everything, but I just couldn't deal with crying every time he came anymore. And I'm a big person on forgiveness, but I'm also a big person of keeping toxic people out of my life, whether that be my aunt who supported my uncle, my rapist uncle, or my dad who's never around. I forgive them for everything, but I I just don't want to be around that person anymore.
Yeah,
So
and that's a good thing because we're talking even on today, and I hope our audience are tuned in and watching this. Um, pardon me. And I am going to share this with as many platforms that I can share it with because it's so vital as it relates to mental health awareness, as it relates to guarding our space and keeping our mind in a place where it's conducive, where we can be fruitful in our lives. And you're right. Forgiveness, it heals us from the inside out. But forgiveness does not mean acceptance. It doesn't mean that because you forgave that you have to bring that person back into your space. It doesn't mean that you have to be a part of that person's life or even accept the things that was done or not done, right? So that's what people really have the tendency to just get that word so confused and just misinterpret what forgiveness really is. Forgiveness means that I love me too much to hate you. Right?
mhm.
Forgiveness means that I want the best for my life and I wish you well for yours, and that I'm willing to release everything that you have done, everything that you did not do, and I'm willing to let that go so I can move on and you can move on too, without any resentment, without any hatred, right? So that's what forgiveness is. But that is so good, for you to get to that point. It's a blessing for you to be where you are, to say that I'm not condoning that. I forgive you, but I'm not allowing you back into my personal space because my mental health is so vital. It's so important. That is so good. That is so good, Envy. Let me look at some other chapters so we can deal with this. Um, I don't know if you remember the part that you wrote when you talked about friend. Do you remember what that was about?
You said friend.
Friend.
I remember writing about my friends how friends could be closer to family members, closer than family members.
Hmm. Yeah. Just having a friend there, just somebody that you can confide in, you can trust and talk to. I think you talked to a friend about some of the things that you were experiencing at home, and you
Yeah.
confided in that friend, um to just to have an outlet to talk to, right? And was it the friend that brought those issues to the counselor regarding you?
Yeah, my best friend, her name is Kaylin. I was actually blessed to be born with a best friend. Our moms were best friends before we were, and they got pregnant at the same time. So I never had to look for friends. I never had to go out, and I never had a problem having a friend because I was born with my own personal friend. And even after 19 years of being alive, like she's still here today. Even after all we go through, our fuss and fight about, she's still here. So yeah, friends feel like family. Like sometimes your friends treat you way better than your family. And a lot of people feel guilty for feeling that or saying that. But it's okay to say that you would rather be around your friends than your family.
Yeah, it is okay to say that. And I often hear that from time to time, especially from our young people like yourself that would talk about, um and sometimes they can get more from a friend and more honesty, more support from a friend than they could do from their own family. The Bible says that a friend loveth closer than a brother. So yeah, I get it. It's so true that a lot of times, you may not have a sister that you can be close to and talk to and share all of the things about your personal life and the things you experience. But you can go to a girlfriend and talk to that person about it. and they're there for you as well. So yes, you talk about a poverty mindset. You say you don't have to follow the same footsteps your parents did. Break the chains. I love it. Test new roads and streets. This is coming from a young person. You were 17 when you wrote this, Envy?
I started writing it when I was 16, and I think I published it at 17, 18. No, I published it at 17, started writing it at 16.
Wow. Teach them about credit, taxes, and savings. Prepare them how you wish you could have been prepared. Throughout my community and school, I often see a lot of teens going into the world blind, struggling at a young age, trying to make money. When I ask them why, they would reply, well, my mom and dad said I got to start making money for myself because they had to. So true. This would often make me upset, you said. Don't get me wrong. Nothing is wrong with telling your teens they should start making money for themselves. Earning money teaches responsibility. The problem is when your teen begins to struggle unnecessarily. Yeah, for example, Jameson's dad has a stable job, not rich, but not poor either. Jameson's dad Jameson's dad had to start working at a really young age to help out the family. Years later, Jameson's dad had him as Jameson begins to start working just to have cash for himself. His dad begins making him pay for everything: his phone bill, his clothes, his field trips, and bills around the house. Jameson often had little to no money left for himself to do fun things with his schoolmates and often found himself stressed. When asked why Jameson's dad made him do these things, the dad replied, well, I had to do it, so should he. Or ain't I'm getting him this because I ain't have I ain't getting him. Okay, I got it. I ain't getting him anything because I ain't have it. We already come from generations of struggling and hard work. Why pass that down to your child unnecessarily? We as a community need to start building generational wealth. This can simply be helping your child save or saving or start a savings account or teaching them about home owning or teaching them how to build, how bills work by making them pay small bills, but also allowing them to have money for themselves. This will teach them money management skills too. From a young author in the King. We have some people that are commenting. You're helping touch some people. You're helping bless some people. Envy here. Yes, wonderful. People are commenting to listen what this person says. Anointed child. You are anointed. You are an anointed child. So we are so blessed to have you sharing all of this on the show today as it relates to the things that you have experienced. I love this entire book, things that Black parents don't know. Let me have a look at that because there's some things that we need to know, some things that we need to help our youth with. It's a very easy read, too. It's not at all boring, it's very relatable. You're very transparent throughout this book, and it hit home. It does hit home in more ways than one. It is what I talk about as it relates to having a paradigm shift, just changing your belief system, changing those things that you were always taught. Now, I'm not saying to do away with it. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's what the old folks said. But those things that we need to keep, those things that we need to harness in on and just keep close to us and follow the things that are good, but just because your parents did it doesn't mean that we have to do it, and it doesn't mean that our children have to do it. It doesn't mean that we have to pass down everything that was done, because some of the things that was done was not what it definitely was not good. Dear Black Man, this is by Envy King. The things a Black parent don't know. Dear Black man, I see you. I see how you force yourself to do extra work and hide your pain because you just don't want your kids to see or know you're hurt. Dear Black dad, I see you. I see you trying to be a good father to your kids, but you ain't have a father yourself. Now you got to slang drugs to put a couple of cans on your shelf. Dear Black parents, I see you. I know you ain't perfect, but neither am I. And I think there's a disconnection between your thoughts and mine. And I see your pain. Trust me, I see your hurt. But do you know the things you say and do make me forget or know your worth? And I get it. You're angry. People say things when they're mad. And you just want to give me this life that you wish you had. And I see you. But your words are like bullets striking through my chest. And you tend to get away with it because at the end of the day, I'm the parent. And the parent knows what's best. So please, please, Black parents, just know I see you. But you need to see us too. Because I am mentally hurting from the things you say and do. We don't try to be disrespectful. We just wish you would hear our voice. Just imagine where our relationship would go. But I guess until you understand, this poem will always be the things a Black parent should but don't know. Oh, Envy, that is powerful, powerful, powerful. Uh, we have, who is this? Lachelle said, I love spiritual power from God for those who love unconditional. Thank you, Father God, for your unconditional love you have for us all. That is wonderful. Very powerful, Valeria says. Very powerful. And these are some of the things that we just have to take note of. We don't know, we don't understand, and we always see the beam pole in someone else's eye, but we don't see it in ours. We can't see it. And that is with a lot of people that I talk to and share with, even myself. I just had a conversation the other night with my son, asking him a question about something. And when he began to explain to me, I related it back to something I asked him about before, and I didn't allow him the opportunity to just hear him out and to just let him speak. We do take it as disrespect, and we have done for years, but we understand that you have a voice and you have an opinion, and you just want to be heard. And I think that when we do come together and listen to one another, we can really come to understanding. You talk about speaking to your kids. The mouth is a human's most dangerous gun. I think Black parents tend to forget this. Yes, us teens push you to a level of anger where you cannot control your mouth or what you say. We always forgive you because you birthed us, fed us, and clothed us. But just know we never forget. There have been moments where I have cried myself to sleep because of the way my mama spoke to me or something she said to me. Wow. This is powerful, Envy. Do you want me to continue reading this? Because I know it can be very touchy to hear it and emotional to hear it read from someone else, because it brings back so many memories and so many painful struggles. I'm just giving the audience a glimpse of some of the things that you've written. What stays in the house. My mom hated when I would go to my friends and tell them about the arguments we had. I never knew why, but she would always respond with, "Stop telling your friends what goes on in my house." As a teen, when you and your parents or guardian get into a fight or fuss, of course you're going to tell and talk about it with your closest friends. It's just something we do. My best friend and I always vented to one another. Yes, certain things should stay in the household, but teens can't always go and talk to their parents about things they want us to discuss. It's not as easy for some people as the TV shows make it seem. But one thing that truly pushed my buttons is when my mama would tell my aunt and her friends something personal about me or something personal I did. Telling your kids personal business is one thing you should never do. Amen to that. No matter how angry you are, don't even say it around your other kids if they are around. One time, me and my mom got into a fight and she screamed some things I never wanted anyone to know about me in front of my cousin's best friend and her mom. My best friend's mom now has a bad look of me. And every time my sister or brother gets into it with my mom, she's like my mom, blames me for their behavior. Parents, the things you say can and will affect how others look at your children. Wow, Indy. You know, the part that I wrote the forward on, what goes in the house stays in the house. That's something that you touched on, and I get it. I get it. I get it. I was raised and I was told that what goes on in this house stays in this house. You don't talk about certain things. You don't expose your family personal business. You don't bring it outside. And that was something that I kept, right? And then when I became an adult, I taught that to my children. What goes on this house stays in this house. But then I began to dig deeper and I began to reflect on my past and some of the things that I experienced that I only shared with my mom, that was not to be shared with anybody else. That goes on in this house stays in this house. But I realized that keeping those things in kept me in bondage because I didn't have an outlet. I went through domestic violence coming up as a young mom, being married for the very first time at 16 years old because I was pregnant and went through domestic abuse. And that was something that I had to keep private because it was embarrassing to the family. It was embarrassing to the name. It was not to talk about. Don't have the police showing up in front of your door because it was considered disgraceful and shameful and embarrassing. And so, oh wow, when I began to rear my children, I didn't know envy. And that's why I want parents to hear this and to harness in on this conversation. When I began to raise my children and teach them, I had no clue that I was teaching them the same things that was taught to me. It didn't even register. And until way later down the road when I realized that when my children started speaking out to me about some of the things, I realized that, wow, this is the same thing that was told to me. And now you have your children repeating that. You have your children going through brokenness because you went through brokenness. You have your children remaining silent because you were silent. You have your children struggling alone because you had to struggle alone. And it's a paradigm, you know. It's a belief system. It's something that we have to do away with. All of these generational curses and all of these these paradigms that have been just ingrained in us, indoctrinated. We kind of inherit this type of behavior, you know. James Moore says this seems to be such an eye-opening book and thought-provoking book. I can't wait to purchase a copy. Yes, thank you. It is, you know, this channel is anointed by God for God. God wants to heal from pain and hurts. Thank you, Savior. Oh, bless you. Bless you. Thank you all for tuning into this conversation with Envy King, this young author that began writing, I think you said at 15 years old. And you published your first book. How old were you when you published this? 17?
16, yeah, 16, 17.
Yes, wow. And you're speaking out about this, and I'm hoping that people are really getting this and hearing this, because there's some things that we must change, you know. When I realized that I was repeating some of those behaviors with my children, the same thing that you talked about, and I helped you publish this book. So I read through it and it was an eye opener for me. You know, it was an eye opener for me to hear this and to see this. um a lot of times kids don't want to um be disobedient deliberately. Some do. Some are very rebellious, very rebellious, and just do whatever and say whatever. But you have to know that every child is differently too, you know. You have to know that every child is different. And you have to understand that they're not you, right? As you say, I am not she. I am not my sister. I am not who you think I am. I am my own person with my own mind. And God is using you to reach a generation, AMV. He's reaching you to touch the next generation and to help them along the way. The millennials of today are not the ones of yesterday. They're not. They have their own mind. They're independent thinkers, you know. They're creative. They're not going to flow the way that everybody else did it. They're not going to do it the way that everybody else want them to do it. They're coming up and they're doing some things, and they're what you all are doing. You all are actually breaking these barriers, you know. And I'm not for rebellions. Don't get me wrong. I'm not for disobedience, but I am for the voiceless. I am the voice for the voiceless, and you are a voice for your peers as well. You are a voice that will help them and talk to them about some of the things that you actually wish someone had instilled and talked to you about. You know, a lot of times I say all the time, just because there's a man in the family does not mean he's a family man, you know. Just because you have both parents in the household doesn't mean that they are, um, you know, they have parental behavior, good parental behavior. Just because you have a dad at home doesn't mean that he is actually a present father. He can be absent emotionally, not there in your life, wasn't there to teach you in the early part of your life, you know. Emotionally, um just detached, you know, and not really being there to hear. So this has been empowering. What is it that you want people to hear? What your peers, I want you first to speak to your peers as it relates to overcoming some of these experiences of low self-esteem, overcoming depression and anxiety, overcoming suicidal thoughts. What can you talk to your peers about that maybe that's this type of negative behavior has affected them? And then I'll have you to talk to the parents and let them know what they should not do and should not say.
I was actually struggling when I was writing on my flashcards of like this one question just kept coming to me, and it was, how did you overcome these challenges? And I looked at my life, and I'm going through the same thing that I was going through before I wrote the book, and I was feeling bad about answering this question. I had to realize that I didn't overcome some of the things in my life, and that's okay. I want to tell the people my age that It don't matter how much you try, you can't change the family that you were put in. These are adults. There's only so much that you can do as a child in a family. And that's probably one of the hardest things that I had to do with myself, was accept that there's nothing that I can do for myself but to work on me. I realized that there's like, if letters talking a book won't change how my mom or family treat me, the only thing I that can change is myself. The only thing you can change is yourself. Whether that be moving out and having a long distance relationship with your family, talking to your family, talking to your friends, sometimes the only thing you can do is better yourself. And one thing I want to tell parents is change is okay. Like, changing is really hard, especially in the black community that we've been through. We've changed so much through us, as just as a race. Look at our history. We've changed so much as a people, and I want parents to realize change is okay. If it's okay for your child to go to school for art and not science, it's okay for your
That's
child
right.
to dance and not want to read books. It's okay for your child to read and not want to go outside. I feel like once parents and children realize those two things, acceptance and change, they could both move forward with their relationship.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Change is okay, parents. Change is okay. Letting your kids be who they are, being their own individual person, having their own path, their own purpose. It's okay to allow them to be who they are. A lot of times we project who we want them to be, and we project all of those negative things, negative comments, and all of that negative talk upon our children, because that's something that our parents did and their parents did. But Envy King, this young author here on today, is breaking the cycle. And Envy, I am so glad that you brought out that point, as that um as it relates to your book, saying that even though you've written a book, you may not have overcome some of these things. You may still be, because we're still overcoming. Every day is a challenge. Every day is a new day to learn something new and to do something differently. And but what I can say, that even though maybe some people, pardon me, maybe some people will not change that have been in your life. Maybe even our parents, maybe your parents, my parents, whomever it may be. Um, because some people just are set in their old ways, you know. You know how we say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Some people just want to stay that way because they feel that's who they are. But the thing that you've learned, Envy, is not to let who they are affect who you are becoming. And that's wonderful. That's a great lesson right there. Don't allow who they are to affect who you are becoming. Somebody asked, what is the name of the book again? The book is called what a Black Parent Don't Know. Is it What a Black Parent? Yeah, What a Black Parent Don't Know by Envy King. And this is a copy of the book. And you'll have Envy's beautiful picture on the back of the book, and a little synopsis about herself, her background. And Envy wants to become a veterinarian. And I understand that you're working at a vet right now, at a veterinarian. Um,
Yeah, I work at a vet hospital right now as a kennel technician, and hopefully move, well, not hopefully, I will move up in those branches.
awesome. You're a vet tech right now. And I know when I was writing the book, helping you write rather, and helping you publish the book, you had your dog, always with your dog. What's your dog? Do you still have that dog?
Yeah, Charlie's actually right next to me on the
What's the
floor.
dog's name?
Charlie.
Charlie. Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. So, Envy, go on and continue to do great things. I'm so glad that you came on the show to share with us all of the wonderful things that you've shared, the lessons that you've learned, that you decided to put in a book to help others. I was saying that even though you may think that it's not changing a person or changing their perspective, what you're doing is planting the seed. You are planting the seed. And I thought about that the other day, because sometimes when we do things in front of our children, and we may not do it directly to them, but we may do it in front of them, and they see that over and over. That's a seed. That's a seed that has been planted. And so even when we plant those seeds that bring about negativity, and it grows and it affects us in more ways than one, even when we do things in front of them, and we're still planting seeds, because those things that you may not think that is affected, it is effective, they are learning, they are watching, they are listening. There are people that are watching you, that are following you right now, that hear you loud and clear, and you're planting seed. You're planting seed, and it's going to manifest, it's going to grow, it's going to change their perspective. Even, you see, tearing down a belief system, tearing down those paradigms are a really hard battle, because it was years of planning, years and years of planning that. So when you're tearing it down, you got to dig it up by the root, and pull it out from the root, and eventually it's going to pull out, it's going to come up, but it's going to take some time. So I'm so glad that you're just persistent with the things that you love, and who you are, and who you want to become. What you're doing, working at the veterinarian hospital, and being with your dog Charlie, and still riding, and living your life. Enjoy your youth, sweetie. Enjoy being a young person. You are impacting. I said before, you all haven't heard the last of Envy King. I want you all to go right now into Amazon. What a Black parent don't know. Put that put that on Amazon in books. Type that in by Envy King and purchase your copy. She has the ebook and as well as the paperback. You want to get the paperback in your hands. You want to have it. I want you to get it, parents, not only for you, get it for your grandchildren, get it for the next generation, right? Get it for your children, and your children should buy it for their children as well. To keep in their library. My mom has read it, and she's getting it. This is my copy, but she was like, "Oh, I want to get that book. I need to get it." So it's so good, Envy, and I'm so glad that you stepped out and you spoke out about all of this. So this is great, great information to have. Any last words, Envy, that you would like to share with our listening audience before we go?
Oh, I wanted to say thank you for having me today. And I'm so grateful that I met you. And I want you to tell your daughter I'm so grateful for meeting her. I'm so happy that she walked in on our conversation. Because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart. Listen, I'm just so glad that you spoke out and you wrote this book, and God is using you. He's using you in ways that you know not of. I'm so glad that you stepped out and you wrote this, and that you allowed myself and my team to help you publish this and bring this book forward. This book has been published since last year. Was it last year or the year before?
I think it was maybe last year, December,
Maybe so.
or
Maybe the year before, Christmas
yeah.
Eve, December, Christmas Eve. This book has been out, guys, for 2 years. Um, with Envy King. You all have to go get it. Listen, make her a number one best-selling author on the charts. Everybody go buy this book, and have it in your library. This is something that you need to have with your children. Have the discussion with your family. Let it be a round table discussion, and just put on. I know, Envy, we came this far coming on the show now. I know you were very reserved and did not want to come on in the beginning when I was asking you to come on. So I'm so glad that you decided to come on the show today and to share this conversation with our audience. So thank you for coming on and being a part of Real Talk with Mary J on today. I'm going to ask you one more question in on today. Did you have a happy Merry Monday? That's all I want to know. That's all I want to know.
Yes, I had a happy Merry Monday.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on, Envy.